Uncensored. Welcome to COASTER-net Uncut.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of COASTER-net Uncut. I'm, of course, Andrew Barczyk, joined once again by my very good friend Danny Miller. Danny, how's it going tonight?
Doing fantastic, Andy. Just got back from a long weekend, 4th of July weekend, one of the big theme park weekends of the season. Had a long weekend down at the Marva Metro Trio, as I like to call it. Busch Gardens, Kings Dominion, and Six Flags America. You had a fun weekend in Chicago. Your sister just got married, so you had a lot of fun this past weekend, right? So, and we've got a special guest with us this evening. Who do we have here, Andy?
We have Eli, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, who's Eli? Well, Eli, if you recall, is the great illustrious winner of the 2016 Thrilling 32 Bracket Challenge. The bracketologist came out at the end. Who were the two winners again, by the way, Danny? I forgot already.
We had Fury 325 and Outlaw Run were our two winners this year. So Eli was one of the few who I think correctly predicted both of them, and that's kind of what propelled him to the win. Because I think we had when we got down to the final two, we had 4 different possible scenarios, and there was a different winner in each scenario, and he was the one who had the least amount of points going into that final round, and with Fury and Outlaw Run winning, he became our champion. So, Eli, introduce yourself and maybe give us a little bit of insight on how you picked your brackets.
Well, I can tell you the way I picked my bracket was sort of just out of the blue. I didn't really have any strategy. I just sort of picked what I thought was better. I went off of what I thought in my head. I did kind of go off golden tickets, but it was generally just a sort of seat of my pants. I don't know, sort of just whatever I thought at the time, kind of thing. But as for myself, I am a coaster enthusiast who has only been around the coaster world for probably about 2 years now. My coaster count is very low. The people in my family are not as big fans as I am, so it's kind of hard for me to get to parks. But I'm around 60 coasters. I'm from Baltimore, and I surprisingly have not been to Six Flags America. So I know you guys were talking about it in the pre-show. So I'll get there someday, but it's not calling me right now. So so that's me, and I hope we'll have a good show tonight.
Absolutely. Tonight we're going to do something a little bit along the lines of the Thrilling 32, but something that is a lot less strenuous on Danny. Like, Danny had to tabulate all those ballots and then, come in and score all the brackets. That was a lot of work you did, Danny. So we wanted to do another bracket, but make it a lot more easier. And
mid-season bracket.
Yeah, no. The bracket of the new coasters, only none of them are open yet, or they just opened last week.
We're in tech rehearsals.
Yeah.
Still.
Oh, my God. So, anyway, what we're actually going to do is we're going to do the first ever, well, not the first ever, but the first ever on Uncut, the first ever tournament of logos. So, yes. We are going to choose 32 logos, and we're going to pit them against each other in a bracket-style tournament to see which logo reigns supreme. Now, anybody can even get involved in this because we're not going to pick the winners. You're actually going to pick every single winner, and we'll do that on the brand-new COASTER-net forums, and we'll tell you how to get involved in that at the end of the show. But before... you're going to pick them. You're going to pick all the winners. This will be the only show that we do on the Tournament of Logos on YouTube. That everything else will be completely contained on the forums. So that you'll pick the winners. We'll set a date, have the next round start, and then you'll pick those winners as well. So it'll be a lot of fun, hopefully, on the brand new COASTER.net forum. So, Danny and Eli, are you guys ready to see which logos made the top 32?
Yeah. I'm certainly ready.
Yeah, let's take a look at it now. Now we have to throw in a little bit of a disclaimer here, Andy, because you know what's going to happen. What Andy and I did, Andy and I made a nice list of all the logos that we really liked, some of which aren't going to be in here. And for those of you that are sad that your favorite ride logo isn't in here, you're just going to have to deal with it. Because what we did, we made this list and we just kind of randomly went out and we said, okay, let's pick 32 random ones from this list. We got a list, and Andy kind of put together the matchups. He tried to, unlike the Thrilling 32 where it's completely random, Andy tried to put together some interesting matchups. So maybe some common themes or some connections between logos even. So you'll get to see all of those. So if you're, and we'll do the same thing year after year. So I think the defending champion will automatically get in every year. But if your favorite logo isn't in this year, tell us about it, and we'll make sure we get it in next year then. So these are the 32 we have, and, Andy's going to introduce each one of these here.
Now, keep in mind, as you vote as well, we're not talking about quality of roller coaster either. That in this group, you're going to have some pretty disappointing roller coasters. But the reason why they're here is because their logos far exceed their ride experiences, especially in the very last matchup. And I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, but in the very last matchup, definitely one of the two rides, the ride experience is far inferior to the logo itself. So let's get to game one. And if you know me, you already know what it is. So.
No, I don't, because you know what? You think so many rides are bad. I have no idea.
Well, that's true. That's true. True that. So in game one, and as you can see, it is in the Borg Assimilator region. Oh, that old ride, the Borg Assimilator. Now known as what, Eli? What's Borg Assimilator known as now?
Nighthawk, I think it's Nighthawk.
Very good.
Yes, very nice. Nighthawk isn't a bad logo by itself either.
Exactly. Not in the tournament, though. But in the first
game... I do
game,
like Nighthawk. I fight him.
In the first game, we have Stormrunner versus Cheetah Hunt. Now, how do you guys feel about this one? The ride at the speed of Cheetah? Is that for you, or is the Stormrunner logo for you? Myself, and I tend to think Cheetah Hunt's nice, but, I chose the most fancy of the Cheetah Hunt logos here, as you can see. That most of them are not this fancy. A lot of them are just, text. But I really do like the Stormrunner logo. What do you guys think about this one? Danny, why don't you start?
Yeah, I think for me, the Cheetah Hunt, I guess, kind of painting portrait that you see on a lot of the graphics. I have a shirt that has like that logo and like that painting on it, which is really, really nice. But the Stormrunner logo I've always been a fan of. I think, Stormrunner is one of those concepts you don't really know what a Stormrunner is. It's kind of like Gatekeeper. You don't really know what a Gatekeeper is, but when you attach a creature to it, or I think it was John Hildebrand in the Gatekeeper documentary said, if you want something to be iconic, it's got to be a creature, and that's what they did with Gatekeeper. And Stormrunner, they've kind of done the same thing with adding the wild Mustang or the running horse running out of the clouds and the lightning bolt. So both nice, but I think for me, I kind of lean towards Stormrunner in this one as well. What about you, Eli?
I definitely agree. Stormrunner is by far the better logo. I'm not a fan of Cheetah Hunt's logo. The text is nice, but I find that most of the logos that I've seen of Cheetah Hunt are just the text. I don't remember what the ride sign looks like, but
looks like
I
the
think
text. Yeah.
Yeah, so I just think Stormrunner's ride sign is big. It's right on the front of the station, and you can see it as the trains are dispatched. It's just so much. It's right there, and I think it's a much better logo.
Okay, so moving on to Game 2 now. We have also in the Borg Assimilator region, Game 2, we have Twisted Colossus versus Goliath at Six Flags Great America. So This one's a little bit tougher for me because I thought when the Goliath logo came out that it really broke the mold for Goliath logos. That we've seen the one at Over Georgia. It's very generic. It's very, weird. It's not very interesting.
Reused.
Yeah, reused. And really the other Goliaths don't have a really signature logo. So a lot of people were worried with the Goliath at Great America, thinking, well, it's going to just be a rehash. And Great America came out and actually did a really fine job with this logo, with the gladiator on it, the rock-looking text. But then at the same time, I really like the Twisted Colossus logo. It has that very steampunky feel behind it with the coaster and the loop. The text, I think, there's a little left to be desired with the text itself and how it's laid out. But I think everything else is pretty cool. I don't know about this one. This one I'm kind of 50-50 on, maybe leaning towards Goliath. I don't know. Danny, what are your thoughts?
I agree. I think if Twisted Colossus' text wasn't so large and overpowering, I think it would probably be a lot better. I think if it was smaller and you had more of the coaster, similar to like the Wicked Cyclone logo, how they have some nice text, but they have some bigger track going on. The Wicked Cyclone logo is too cartoony for my feel, but if they had more going on around the outside of it, this one kind of seems like it's more text focused and you have the accent. I think maybe part of me leaning towards Goliath is the fact that it is actually different and that it was surprising. So I think I lean slightly towards Goliath here. Although Twisted Colossus, it's nice, but I think I would lean a little bit with Goliath on this one.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a tough one for me because they're both good, and I feel like it's very refreshing to see a different Goliath logo, and I think for that reason I'm going to lean Goliath because most of the Goliath logos are this generic. They're the same thing. And Twisted Colossus, I agree with Danny. The text is a bit too big, and the roller coaster needs to be more pronounced. So I think. For me, I'm going to lean Goliath.
Okay, so moving into the next game, Game 3, we have a new wood versus an old steel, kind of. We have Outlaw Run from Silver Dollar City versus Phantom's Revenge from Kennywood. Now, Outlaw Run has an interesting story behind it that if you watch the From Dreams to Screams again, Silver Dollar City really struggled with this logo and particularly the entire story of Outlaw Run because they didn't really want to have, guns be featured, in the story because it's a family-friendly park. They thought guns shouldn't be involved. So, there were some renditions of this logo that had the horse rider actually holding a gun in his hand, and it you can kind of infer maybe that's what he's doing, but it's not as pronounced in that logo. I really like the Outlaw Run logo. I like the colors. I like the shading. I like the antiquing on it. I like the horse rider. I like everything about it, but I kind of like Phantom's Revenge a little bit more. That Phantom is just so damn cool. And I don't know, it kind of reminds me of other Phantoms that we've seen. Maybe it's a little too formulaic because we've seen Phantoms before with the original Banshee, with Steel Force. So maybe it's too many of those apparition-like characters. I don't know, but there's something about the lightning and the colors about Phantom's Revenge. I really love the Outlaw logo, but I'm not so sure I would go with this one. In this round. Eli, why don't you start for us? What do you think?
I actually prefer Outlaw Run. The Phantom's Revenge seems a bit too plain for me. I do like the Phantom, but like the ride text is a bit too plain. And Outlaw Run actually has the detail in the text, and it has the sort of outline, and you can see I like the way the text is sort of a wave. It sort of, speaks to the running of the outlaw. So I feel like the text sold me on Outlaw Run.
Oh boy, man, you guys both make compelling arguments here. It's a good point about the text, because on Outlaw Run, the text is really worked into the logo with the gradient brown and gold that you have, and the way it's you have like the gold leaf accents on it. And on Phantom's Revenge, it's just kind of text there added on top of the Phantom. The lightning bolts are cool though. Oh, boy. I think if I were to vote right now, I might lean Phantom's Revenge, but I have no fault with anyone who picks the Outlaw Run one in here. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. This is a good one here.
And you look at moving into Game 4 now, which is the first fourth of the bracket. Maybe we're starting to pick a few outstanding ones here. I don't know yet, but Game 4 I thought was really, really interesting, because I had not really seen the Abyss logo, and I just stumbled upon it as I was doing some news for the COASTER.net website, and I really loved the Abyss logo. But here you see it against Hydra, another striking logo with the colors, with the dragon head. Me personally, I'm going to have to go with Abyss on this, because I just love the cloaked figure with the track behind him. It just looks very medievally and very cool. But man, that Hydra logo, this is a tough game, a tough first round matchup here, where I think either of these two logos could probably go pretty deep into this tournament, but they got to fight each other here in the first round. Danny, what are your thoughts?
The Abyss logo is really, really cool, and it's really, really frightening. And if you came up to a ride sign that looked like that, I think you would be downright scared. I'm going with the Hydra logo for one reason, and pretty much one reason only. Here's why. When I was in middle school, I actually, most people don't know this about me. So I was very big into sketching logos and designing my own logos for like hockey team logos or whatever it was. And I've done a few logos of my own for my No Limits coasters. And in middle school art class, we had to do sketches of the week, and one of them had to be of a mythological creature. And I actually drew the Hydra logo. And it took me hours and hours and hours to sketch and then color in, especially with the purple gradient in the oval in the background, and to do the gradient in the text. It took hours and hours and hours and hours. So I have a huge appreciation for the Hydra logo, because I've actually sketched it from scratch, looking at it. And like you look at the gradients in just the dragon head, the green dragon head in the middle. It's really, really, when you look at the little details and how you have the little neon green lines that act as the accents in the other 8 heads, it's really just a lot of detail goes into it. But both fantastic logos. Wouldn't be upset with either of them winning. But I'm gonna lean Hydra. Just maybe it's my Dorney bias. Everyone's gonna say it's my Dorney bias, but because I've sketched it, and I know how long it would take to design a logo like that, I'm gonna go with Hydra.
Well, I personally like Abyss more. I do like Hydra. They're both very good, but I just like the way that the Abyss text is integrated within the actual logo. I think my favorite thing is when the text is integrated into the logo. So the staff he's holding as the Y. And I think that really does a lot for the logo. And I like the coaster track, the way the coaster track is symmetrical and the way it, goes around it and makes it look a lot more appealing. If it were just the Ghost or the Phantom, I wouldn't like it as much, but the coaster track really adds that, extra dimension that really puts it over the top for me.
So that wraps up the first fourth of this tournament. One of those one of those logos will move on to the Final Four and then to the championship game as we get to it. But moving on to the next region, we see another roller coaster that now has a different name elsewhere. Danny, you were just on this one, actually. How was it? How was the good old Iron Wolf running this weekend?
It was surprisingly better than mediocre. I was only headbanged about 14 times, which usually it's somewhere in the 20s.
Yeah.
It was actually reasonably smooth until the end. And of course we're talking about now Apocalypse, The Last Stand at Six Flags America, which, spoiler alert, we might see a little bit later on here. All right, intriguing, right? Not bad. It was a little bit wet and rainy, so no fire. Darn. It was a decent ride. So, Iron Wolf is the name of this region, which of course that's what Apocalypse was when it was in Andy's neck of the woods at Six Flags Great America. So, what logos do we have here, Andy?
So in Game 5 here, we have Krake versus Tatsu. Now, these are two interesting logos, both creatures again. Krake, not really sure what that is, some kind of sea monster that, it's a dive coaster and it's eating up and it has a big boat on it. It's pretty cool centerpiece of the roller coaster out there. But Tatsu is one of those rides one of those logos, I should say, that people just love all the time. People really love on the Tatsu logo. I don't know about this one. This one's tough for me to pick. I'm not in love with either of these two logos, and I'm not sure which way I lean. Maybe a little towards Krake, maybe a little towards Tatsu. I'm not quite sure. Eli, what do you think?
This is very tough for me. I like them both. Neither of them is my favorite, but I do like them both. I think I'm leaning Krake because if you look at the actual ride itself, it looks exactly like the tunnel that the coaster actually dives into. The logo looks exactly like the tunnel, so I like that sort of consistency.
Yeah, so this is a tough one too, and again, I'm going to show a little bit of bias here, and it's because those of you who know me and my whole T-shirt story of the whole Dan the T-shirt guy story know that Tatsu was my 250th coaster, and one of my airbrush T-shirts has the Tatsu logo on the back. And I'm going to lean towards Tatsu here, not because I think Krake is a bad logo, because it's a very, very nice logo. Tatsu for me is one of those things when you look at it and say, oh yeah, that's a really nice logo. But then when Tatsu is one of those logos where every time you look at it, I think you notice a little bit more detail. So if you look at the body of the dragon and how detailed the scales are and how the shading is in the scales on the dragon is really neat. And then you look at where the claws are kind of going on top of the stone and you have the shadow of the claws, so you get a nice idea of the sun actually hitting it and how the text itself has some depth. It looks like it's indented because you have some deeper colors inside the text, and it looks like the edges are raised. And one of my favorite details of the Tatsu logo is the green eyes, and also the the eyebrows, and part of the spikes on the head are actually flames. And that's one of my favorite details of this logo that you don't really know. You may not notice the first time you look at it, how the eyebrows are flames and how the spikes on the head are flames. And you see the logo has a lot of depth to it. It has a lot of layers to it. Krake does too, but not to the level of Tatsu. So I'm going to go with Tatsu on this one, I think.
So the next game is Game 6 in the Iron Wolf region, and this features Ghost Rider versus Stinger. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I think Stinger is one of the most ingenious logos produced in some time, because they took the Scorpion and made it the logo look just like the ride, that it looks like a boomerang, that it's really the only roller coaster logo that I can really think of, besides maybe like a corkscrew logo or something somewhere, that they actually made it like into the ride itself, which I think is really cool. Now, Ghost Rider has that classic look to it. That there you see that they're really trying Knott's Berry to really hammer the new logo, because they put it on the front of the new trains now. It looks really awesome. But I'm gonna have to go with Stinger on this one. I just really like the look of Stinger and how it looks like a boomerang. I think it's really clever and ingenious. Danny, what are your thoughts?
Ghost Rider, since I was little, was always one of my favorite logos, because it goes back to the idea of making something iconic and making it a creature. And when you hear the word Ghost Rider isn't really a creature. It's like a gatekeeper, or a storm runner. You don't really know what it is. And when you put the horse with the bandit and the axe, the mining axe, you assign it some extra character. And I think the lines of the Ghost Rider logo and how the text is wavy, kind of like how Eli was talking about with Outlaw Run, and you have the hair of the bandit and the mane of the horse kind of flowing backwards, it gives you that ghostly feel. It gives you the feel, and the fact that it's silver now in this new logo, you get the feel that it's actually a ghostly figure, which makes it work really well. And then, like Andy, like you said, the whole idea of using the Scorpion and Stinger theme is that, the Scorpion's tails are actually made up of these two separate spines that kind of come together at the actual Stinger itself, and it looks exactly like the lift hills on the ride, and then the claws look like the Cobra roll, or the boomerang element, whatever you want to name that element, and it's just really a genius design for an off-the-shelf ride. I'm going to go with Stinger as well. Because I think the fact that it's so intricately kind of incorporated into what the ride is, even though it's an off-the-shelf ride. You have the nice yellow and greenish color in the logo. You have the red eyes. You have the yellow and green accent sort of in the Stinger itself, and then you've got a couple of different shades of blue in there. I'm usually not a fan of gradients, but I think it works here. Boy, Ghost Rider is awesome too. I mean, that's always been one of my favorite logos. But I'm going to go Stinger ever so slightly here. Eli?
No, I agree. It's Stinger is the better logo. I do like Ghost Rider though. I think Danny is right. It definitely gives you the feeling that it is a ghost, and I definitely get that ghostly sort of eerie feeling from looking at it. But Stinger, I agree. It's one of the cooler logos because it looks exactly like the ride.
So Game 7 now, moving along, features Osiris versus Raging Bull. Now Osiris is not a well-known logo. Sometimes you see it stacked a little bit without all of this other Egyptian rigmarole around it. Pretty cool, pretty intricate. Raging Bull, though, I don't know. There's always something about Raging Bull. And Raging Bull, I think the logo might fall into that category of being better than the ride. But it's really, I really like the Raging Bull logo. And there's so many different variations of it that I think it really does well. But Osiris is pretty cool as well. Eli, what do you think?
I think Raging Bull. I don't like the way that our Osiris is sort of cartoony. I feel like that looks like something out of a cartoon. The sort of guy. It doesn't feel real to me. But Raging Bull, I really do like the way that the text is integrated. This is probably the best example of text being integrated into a logo. It looks like a bowl. It really does. And I think that is the best example of that. And I really, really like that.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and the fact that the text is integrated in such a way on the Raging Bull logo that it actually looks like a bull. I like the fact that, when they name this ride, intentional or not, they're playing to the Chicago Bulls and how it really looks a lot like that. So the people of Chicago, there's sort of a connection there. The other thing that I think is really neat about this logo is the fact that when you think rage, you think angry, you think, you know, someone's forehead getting red or something, and you think heat, you think fire. And by having, again, the gradient text, the colors go from the yellow to the orange, to the red, to the dark red, you kind of give off, and the smoke coming out of the bull's nostrils that are non-existent, you kind of get the feeling that there is fire or flame somewhere in here, or there's heat, even though it's not actually there in the logo. And I think that kind of, there's a nice connection there. The Osiris logo is very neat, and again, I think it's one of those things that when you look at it, you see a little bit of a different detail each time you look at it. You've got what looks like maybe some smaller birds or something, or some swords, and then you've got some nice colors. But I think Eli makes a good point too. When you put it next to the Raging Bull logo, I think it's just a little bit too cartoony, yeah. I think, for my liking. I don't mind a little bit of a cartoony look, because a lot of the ones that we've been saying we liked, like the Hydra one, some of them have, or the Stormrunner one, a lot of them have a little bit of a cartoony feel. This one is a little bit over the line for me, just enough. So I'm going to go Raging Bull here.
I think the Egyptian head really is the part that sends it over that cartoony line. If they just remove that, I think it might be really cool. But or I don't know. It just seems like it should be more intense, than it is, but it's not. So moving into the last game of the left side of the bracket, we have the Battle of the Snakes here. So this is Dason's favorite category right now, because he loves snakes. If you ever see him at a park, make sure you pull up a picture of a snake and show it to him, because it's a fun reaction.
You know why he likes Cobra's Curse?
Oh, he loves Cobra's Curse down there. Oh, it's real funny. But here we have Cobra's Curse, not in this game. It's actually Iron Rattler and Diamondback at Kings Island. Another one, two logos I really, really like. I love the Steel Snake. The text, is kind of nice, a little strange. I don't, the text, I guess, is okay. I wish it had a little more scaly feel to it. But regardless, it's going up against Diamondback. And I think Diamondback might be one of the coolest logos ever produced in the history of logos. That I love Diamondback. I love the fangs on the two A's. I love the track in the middle being the snake's tongue. There's nothing I don't love about Diamondback. So I'm going to have to go with a clear Diamondback winner on this one. Danny, what are some of your thoughts here?
I agree 100% with everything you're saying here. I mean, I think. Let me say this. I think the snake itself of the Iron Rattler logo is better than the snake on the Diamondback logo. The problem that I have here, and where kind of pushes it in Diamondback's favor for me, is the fact that, like you said, the text I don't think works as well, and the text is the focus of the Iron Rattler logo. When you don't have a logo that looks symmetric, your eyes tend to wander one way or the other, and you want your eyes to focus on that snake, but because it's such a small part of the logo and the text is so big, it kind of gets lost. So I think text was smaller and was kind of maybe if the snake head was up higher and the text was maybe across the snake itself and the snake head was coming down and maybe forming part of one of the letters or something, or maybe it was coming out of the gap in the O and you incorporated it a little bit more with the text, I think it might be better. But the fact that you have a few really nice details. I mean, first of all, look at the scaling and the shading of the Diamondback, the scales, and also the eyes. And you have you have a very realistic looking snake that still has the cartoon animated feel while looking realistic. Like you said, you have the actual lettering with a being back, and then my favorite detail, like Andy said, is the fact that the tongue of the snake is still pointed like it is, biologically correct. It's got the points on it, but it's the coaster track. And it's little details like that I think really make logos stand out. I think Diamondback is a threat to win the whole tournament, just because of little details like that.
No, I completely agree. I don't think it's a contest here. Diamondback is one of my favorites. Kings Island has a couple of really good logos, and we're going to get to a couple more of them later. They have some really good logos there at Kings Island. So I think Diamondback is up there as one of my favorites.
So that closes out, like I said, this half of the region and this half of the bracket. So moving on to the next region, and you can see here now we have the Banshee region, and not the Banshee from Kings Island, but no, folks, that is original Banshee. That is the Cedar Point Banshee logo. So we are in the Cedar Point Banshee region, formerly known as Mantis, now known as Rougarou. That's the region we're in. And Game 9 is an interesting one, because we were looking for logos just to see what was out there, because we didn't want to, neglect overseas and maybe some other places that we're not too familiar with. So Game 9 features maybe one of the coolest logos ever in Possessed, another Dorney Park. If only Dorney Park could have coasters as good as their logos, it might be somewhere that people want to go.
Stop it. Stop it.
And it's going up against a logo that I don't think many people will be familiar with. A few will definitely be, but not many.
You're going to have to explain this one, Andy.
Yes. Velociraptor at Paultons Park in Great Britain. It's a
Hashtag
simple,
Brexit.
Yeah. It's a simple, the coaster itself is a family coaster, a boomerang-style sit-down coaster, I believe. It's very simple. But I think the logo of Velociraptor in this one is really, really kick-ass. Not to dismiss what Possessed does, because I really love Possessed for a lot of different reasons, but Velociraptor, I think, is so cool with the way it's got the raptor behind it with the tongue coming out. The text fits perfectly. It's got the claw slashes through the text. You got that rock work behind it with some ancient looking symbols and some kind of some stuff on there. It's got some vines hanging down to give you that jungle feel. I love everything about the Velociraptor logo, but it's going up against Possessed, which is a pretty badass logo itself, with the horns turning into the track. Possessed, though, doesn't really twist and turn all that much. I know it's got the one spire that has a twist on it, but the other one's straight. But, yeah, man, this one's a tough one. I can't choose a winner here. I kind of lean towards Velociraptor because it's new to me.
I wonder why.
And it's a dinosaur, so it's naturally better. So I'm going to go with Velociraptor, giving it the dinosaur edge. Dinosaurs always win. So there you go. Eli, what do you think?
No, this one is very tough, but I think I'm leaning Possessed. I keep going back and forth here. I can't. One second I think Possessed, but one second I think Velociraptor. But I think I'm leaning Possessed just because the detail is so great on it. You look at it and you see the things sort of sticking out of the center circle and the track on coming out of the skull. It's just so detailed. And I agree, the Velociraptor logo is detailed too, but I feel like Possessed is a little more detailed.
Yeah, oh boy, this is real tough. The one thing the Velociraptor, the ride itself is one of those Vekoma Junior boomerangs.
Yeah.
I think it's very similar to Ben 10. which was like the first junior boomerang. The thing I love about Velociraptor is the color, because you see a lot of reds and blues and whatnot, and to see a teal, like a turquoise, a green, and a purple. I mean, you would think it would kind of be like a sissy logo or like a kitty cartoony logo. I mean, it is a cartoony logo, but it's not a cartoony feel, because you've got some nice, I guess. What's the word I'm looking for? You have a nice frightening look to it.
Yeah.
It has a scary look to it.
Like the
but then again, so does Possessed.
Like the Velociraptor looks vicious in that. It's not a friendly Velociraptor. It's a cartoon, but it's vicious with the teeth and the tongue. Yeah, but then the Possessed. You want to talk about wicked, or that's.
And the other thing I like about Possessed is the fact that since it was called Voodoo for its first year, and the fact that they were able to reuse the exact same logo and still make it work, and the horns, I'm not quite sure what the horns actually are, but then they twist, sort of like the twist on the spike, even though they only have one, but it turns into the track, and then you've got some different colors behind it. Oh, can I flip a coin here?
I had to. I gave it the dinosaur edge.
Yeah, I'm going to go Possessed because I always like skulls. I think the skulls always have an extra badass factor to it, although so do Velociraptors, but... just so people can further claim that I'm being a Dorney Park bias, I'll go Possessed.
Because I think you're I'm pretty sure you're 3 for 3 on Dorney Park rides so far. So I'm just saying.
I'm 3 for 3. I'm 3 for 3 on Dorney Park rides. Okay, so.
Oh man, and we're not done yet either. So that's the funny part.
No, we're not. I know we're not.
Okay, so game 10 now is the Battle of 2016. We have Terran, or Tyrone, or however you want to say it. I like Tyrone. Do you like Terran or Tyrone better?
I like Tyrone.
Yeah,
with a little bit of a German accent. Tyrone.
Yeah, that sounds
Tyrone.
good. So we got Tyrone versus Valravn. Crazy name coasters.
No Storm Chaser?
Oh, man. No Storm Chaser. Sorry. Now, this is another tough one for me because Valravn, the logo is pretty cool. It's a bird, okay? We all know Cedar Fair loves birds, but this might be one of their best birds. I'm not going to lie, that it's pretty cool. And it's not just a bird, but it's got the metal robotic features on the wings. It's got the crown. It's got the carapace, the center armor. Pretty cool text. They even integrate the little wing things that are on the coaster at the bottom of the coaster along the wheels. But Tyrone is so cool too. It looks like medieval weaponry to me. And then you got that with the center circle with the red eyes of some sort of creature there. I don't know where to. I think I'm gonna side with Valravn on this. But I think Tyrone is pretty awesome as well. Danny, what do you think?
So I'm doing to find out what exactly Tyrone is and what the reference is. So it detects it. If you go to Google Translate, it automatically detects it as Hausa. I don't know what language is Hausa. I don't even know what that
African.
is. But it translates to English as is it African?
I think that
is it African?
To me.
So when translated to English, it means conference. So I don't. It must be a prop. No, it must be a proper noun. I'm guessing. The Valravn, the weaponry look, and then the O looks like a medallion, and then you've got some detail up in the T with like the little twisted And then Valraven, I mean, the Tyrone one is interesting because it's newer. The Valraven one we've seen for so long. I think when we first saw the Valraven one, I think it looked really cool. And they've got the same kind of feel to them. I think... Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I think I'm gonna side with... I think I'm gonna go Valraven. I don't know. The Tyrone logo is so nicely executed for not having an actual image in it. I think Tyrone might be the best text-only logo out there. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of text-only logos in this tournament, but this is one of them. I think the fact that, again, the Valraven has a creature attached to it, I think that just helps it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I really, it's really tough, but, as a Baltimore Ravens fan, I have to sort of, bring out my grudge here.
Yes.
Why is the Valraven brown? I've never understood why is the coaster brown? It needed to be purple, and it should have been black and purple, or black and, black track, purple supports, or purple track, black supports. It should not have been, the brown, gray, and blue. I don't know where they got that. So I'm going to go with Toronto on this one, but I do like...
Eli, they got it from Lake Erie Monster is what they should have called the damn ride.
Yeah, that's what it should have been.
Yeah, I agree.
Now the trains on Tyrone are so much cooler because they've got like that gladiator eagle head thing with the horns on the front. I don't know if you've seen those. Yeah. But, logo-wise, I think Valraven's probably a little bit better.
So let's go to maybe the most interesting matchup in this tournament. And in the Banshee region, we have Steel Force, a.k.a. Original Banshee, versus Banshee, a.k.a. Kings Island Banshee.
the new Banshee.
So we got three Banshees all here for us. You can see you know what? I don't know if I see the similarity between Steel Force's Banshee and the original Banshee that they were going to use. But supposedly that's where they got it from. They stole the Banshee from Cedar Point. And
I hope you're being sarcastic.
Well, it's slightly. Obviously the original Banshee's not colored, and it's not robotic either. So they added a few more flares before they put it on Steel Force with the robotic hands and the coloration. The original Banshee is much more. It's almost original Banshee's logo actually reminds me a lot of Ghost Rider's logo right now. With the way it has just a black outline of the figure. So Steel Force takes it up a bunch, and then you got Kings Island's Banshee, which I think sets new standards, not only for logos, but for ride signs. Is the Banshee at Kings Island ride sign not the best anywhere? I can't think of another rival.
It's right up there. I mean, definitely, especially with the fog and the lighting. I mean, Leviathan is up there. I think Furies with the flashing eyes and the flashing wings is up there, but I still think Banshee and Leviathan are probably, in terms of signs, are a little bit better. For logo, man, I'm 3 for 3 with the Dorney ones here. I could go for the clean sweep, but honestly, I think the Banshee logo probably is just a hair ahead, just because it would have been so easy for them to go back to that same style, and the fact that they went back to what a Banshee is, and they kind of dug a little bit deeper into the backstory of what a Banshee actually is. And the other thing I really like is the way that they have like the ghost trail, which the ghost trail that turns into the coaster loop. I really like that about it. And you have the claw of the Banshee, which really looks cool in signage, where it's like reaching out to you, and the text is really well executed. This one's a dead heat for me, but to cast my vote, I think I go Banshee ever so slightly.
You know what gives the edge in the Banshee logo, I think, is the fact that it's pink. Seriously.
Different show, Andy,
Yeah,
and that's for another show.
Eli, what do you think? Original Banshee
No,
or new Banshee?
I think new Banshee. This is absolutely one of my favorite logos, along with Diamondback and another Kings Island logo that we're going to get to later. I think Banshee is one of the best. What I really like is that you have the loop with the inverted trains on it back there, behind the actual Banshee. I like that detail. I like the way it's sort of reaching out at you, and the color is really good. I like the once again, the gradient does a good job on the sign or on the logo itself, on the lettering. It really serves, it does a good job there. And so I think Banshee is definitely my favorite of these two.
Okay, moving on to game 12 now, still in the original Banshee region. We have Prowler versus the Great White. And if ever I think there should be a runaway victor, I believe that this is it. Because Prowler's logo is so far and above anything else. Oh my God! It's just like Danny, you talk about the detailing all the time. You got the spots on the Prowler's head. You got the eyes that are four-tone with the red, the orange, the yellow, the green, and then if you count the black, it just looks so badass, and it's hiding behind the title because it's a Prowler and it stalks its prey. This logo is so cool. Great White from SeaWorld San Antonio is pretty cool too, but it's a robotic shark, let's be honest. And I don't see much in the way of fun there. So Eli, what do you think? Prowler or Great White?
I agree totally. Prowler is much better. I'm not a big fan of the robot shark. It's once again, it's a little too cartoony for me. It just doesn't seem real, and whereas the Prowler logo, whatever that is, a panther, it really looks like, a real thing. It doesn't seem too cartoony to me. It seems tangible. So, and I really like the detail of the grass behind it. That really helps it. If it didn't have that grass, I really feel like it wouldn't be as good. But the fact that it's a Prowler, it's stalking its prey, it's hidden in the grass, I feel like that really adds and contributes a lot to the look.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go the other way on this. I think it's a runaway for the Great White. No, I'm kidding. I actually really like the Great White logo. This is actually one that I suggested putting on the list when we were going through our list of rides. I think it's kind of outside the box and having the whole mechanical shark look, and I think it's really different, and it's really I think it's really frightening and all that, but I mean, the Prowler logo is just, I think, one of the best ones that's ever been made. I mean, just the color that you see. Andy, you mentioned the eyes and how you've got 5 colors in there, including the black, and then you have like the highlights from the top. You see like the light blue that's on top of it, and it looks like the sun is kind of have like, you can see like the sunset, and like the words are shining like a sunset onto the cat itself, and then you have the shadow. I actually have a T-shirt with that logo on it, and then it's actually got the coaster track behind it too. But I think Prowler is a huge contender to win the whole thing. I would say, I don't know if Prowler would be my favorite to win the whole competition, but it's probably in my top 3 or 4. I think this one might be a Final Four contender for sure.
Well, looking ahead, next round, assuming that Prowler wins and Banshee wins, that's going to be a hell of a choice between those two in the second round of this tournament.
Right. Oh, no.
That's going to be main event level there. But moving on to the final region here, and we have the Centurion region. Some of you may be wondering, what the hell is Centurion? If you remember, it was the leaked logo of Fury 325 before it was Fury 325. Danny, you were convinced that ride was being called Centurion, and it's not.
Yeah, I mean, we had some good discussions, and we thought that it lended itself very much to a B&M Hypercoaster because you look on the Centurion logo, the top of the helmet looks exactly like the front of a B&M Hypercoaster car, and then it kind of looks like it's on the rails with the spine being the middle of the helmet, and then the black swooshes being the rails. So I mean, there was, Andy, you and I had talked at lengths about this and how it lended itself to a B&M Hypercoaster, but alas, Fury 325 is what we got. But Fury's got a pretty good logo too. Let's not skimp over that too. But so what's our matchup here?
The first matchup here is the Smiler at Alton Towers versus Apocalypse: The Last Stand, the original or the new Iron Wolf. I'll tell you what, these two logos. Now, Apocalypse is not a ride that I tend to look forward to riding, but let me say that logo is pretty cool with the skull and the mushroom cloud. If you're talking Apocalypse, that pretty much captures what an apocalypse might look like right there. But Smiler has such a unique logo that when you stare at it burrows deep into your mind and imprints itself there. A little creepy, actually.
Looks like it's spinning if you look at it too long.
Oh, my God. It's so creepy. I don't know which way I go on this one. This is another flip of the coin because I think both of them do exactly what they were meant to do. Smiler is that very uncomfortable ride, plays with the mind, all that stuff, very, very creepy-esque. And then you have Apocalypse that really hammers the theme home exactly. And then the subtitle of The Last Stand, like, come on, it's a stand-up coaster. What more do you want? This one, I'm going to be very interested to see how the voters choose this one. Because I think both of them are very, very interesting. Eli, what are your thoughts?
I like them both a lot. I really do. They are both really good. I feel like Apocalypse is a bit too detailed. I feel like there's a little too much detail in there. And I do like that there's arrow track for a B&M coaster, but that's just me being a nerd. But I do the Smiler, that logo really freaks me out. But I do like it. It looks like it's spinning. I've been staring at it here for a while, and it just looks like it's spinning around. I think I'm leaning the Smiler on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Like I said when we talked about Possessed, I think a skull makes anything look pretty cool. And especially a flaming skull, I think makes anything look really cool. I think, and again, Apocalypse is one of those coasters. It's one of those logos where the logo is a little bit too good for the coaster, I think. We talk about the Stinger logo, and it's like, wow, such a great logo, and, we wasted it on this coaster. I am going to go Apocalypse here, even though it does have a lot going on. It is very busy. The Smiler logo is very, very creepy, and I like the creep factor of it. It totally fits into what Alton Towers is and kind of, I guess, the reputation that they have with, like, it's the secret weapon and, all of that, all the sort of nonsense they do. They did a lot with 13 as well. And, but I'm going to go with Apocalypse here.
Okay. Game 14 we have Volcano the Blast Coaster against Leviathan. Now, I'll tell you what, I love Volcano.
This one is...
I love Volcano. I love the fact that the track is coming up out of the volcano just like it does in real life. I like the text being rock-like, but I'll tell you what, Leviathan is just so cool. You talk about detailing, the scaling all the way up and down the snake or the sea monster. The text is amazing how it flows along with the creature. I've always been in love with the Leviathan logo, and they did a hell of a job with it. Volcano, I think, is great, but I think Leviathan is a step better. Danny, your thoughts?
Yeah, I've always been a huge fan of the Leviathan logo. People know that I've always said that Leviathan is one of the best ride logos ever created. I think it has one of the best ride signs ever created. I think it's damn near perfect. I think the only drawback when comparing these two, when you look at Leviathan, and maybe the only downfall to it, and I've said it with a couple of the logos we've looked at, when you look at logos like this, I think part of them, when you look at like hockey team logos, since I'm a hockey player, one of the biggest criticisms of hockey team logos is it starts to look too cartoony when you put a hockey stick in it or in the creature's hand, or you put a hockey puck, or you try and put something related to the game. You don't want to do that. With roller coasters, I think it's the exact opposite. I think if you can put a subtle hint that it's a roller coaster logo in it, like Diamondback is an excellent example. The fact that the tongue is the roller coaster track, or Banshee, how the swoosh of the Banshee is in the shape of the loop, or like Possessed, where the horns kind of turn into the coaster track. Little things like that. And for that reason, I am actually going to pick Volcano here, because I think it is so perfectly executed into what the ride actually is. You have the huge eruption, you have the lava and the flames coming out, and then you have the lava from the explosion transforming into the coaster track. You have, it almost looks like the train and the track is still in that molten lava form. It's that glowing orangish yellow, and it perfectly symbolizes what that coaster does, where you're being launched out of the mouth of a volcano. That's exactly what the ride is. And the fact that the logo lends itself perfectly to what the ride does, and what, Andy, you talked the other week on our Raptor versus Manta show about how Raptor tells you a story. Mm-hmm. Volcano tells you the story of being shot out of the mouth of the volcano, and the logo goes along perfectly with that. The Leviathan logo is flawless. The only issue when you compare the two is I don't know that Leviathan is a roller coaster logo. I don't know what it is. That could be any company logo. I love the fact that they could have kept it like the one on this shirt and just kept it be a volcano. You would have no idea what it is. The fact that the full logo has the little bit of roller coaster thrown in there is what kind of tilts it. Otherwise, it would be a dead tie for me. But that tilts it in Volcano's favor for me.
I actually prefer Leviathan, and I agree with Danny's point about Volcano. I think the roller coaster track really adds something, but Leviathan is just so cool. I really like the way that the letters are integrated. And for me, the thing that's most important is that the letters are integrated somehow into the creature, and I feel like that is done so well with Leviathan. And I feel like it's so detailed, and it's and the ride sign, with the waterfall and everything is really cool. So I'm leaning Leviathan on this one.
Okay, game 15 now. We have the Battle of 2015, actually. In game 15, go figure, we have Fury 325 versus Rougarou, also known as Mantis, also known as Original Banshee. So there we have it. Now, a lot of people love the Fury logo. I I don't know. I think it's good enough. It's good enough, okay? But I think the Rougarou logo goes a little bit above and beyond. Now, neither of them symbolize the coaster track at all. So we're looking at just the logos here. And I really like the detailing of the Rougarou logo. I like how they got the neon green slashes with the outline of the letters, and then behind the two O's you have the two orange eyes that just pop at you and stare at you. I just think it's so cool. Now, the Fury logo to me, like, I like the head, and I like how the R has the stinger on it, but everything else screams generic to me. That the Fury text, like, I feel like I've seen, like, in Chicago somewhere, a lacrosse team called the Fury, and they have, like, very similar text to that. Like, this almost looks like an athletic symbol to me than rather a roller coaster symbol. And yeah, I like it. Yeah, it's fine. But I think in this case, the Rougarou logo goes above and beyond and really gives you more detailing and more and more things to look at than the Fury logo does. Eli, I know you're a big Fury fan. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love the ride and I love the logo. I feel like it's simple, but it does its job well. And I feel like the thing that puts it over the top is the R in the Fury. And I feel like that is, with the stinger, I feel like that is, what really makes this logo great. And I saw when I was at Carowinds, on the entrance sign, they were using the logo without the hornet on top. And I really think it is very generic without the hornet on top. But once you put that hornet there and you make it look like it's, the lettering is integrated, into the creature, like I've been saying this whole time, it's one of my favorite things about the logos. And so I really like that. So I think I'm going to go Fury. I do like Rougarou, though. The amount of detail in that is absolutely stunning, and I applaud Cedar Point for going into that level of detail with the logo.
Yeah, I think the Rougarou logo does. The Rougarou logo does a very good job of describing, making you think of like what a Rougarou is. You have the wolf eyes, you have the claw slash. I think it does a good job. The thing with the Fury logo is it is simple, but I think the Fury logo is a good case of where less is more. In this case, I think if you see, the focus of it is the text, the word Fury. And I think if you got too detailed with how small the Hornet itself actually is, you would start to lose that, and it would look a little bit too busy. I think Fury is a great example of what Iron Rattler could have been if you had the snake coming out over the top of the text, and it kind of was one encompassing logo, because the Fury logo is fairly symmetric for the most part. You look at the middle of it when you look at it, as opposed to the Iron Rattler logo where you look off to the left or you look at the text. You look at the middle of the Fury logo. And I think it's well done. I don't think Fury is the best logo. Fury is a very nice logo. I don't think it's the best logo in this tournament. I think between Volcano and Leviathan, I think Fury probably loses to either one of those, but I do think Fury is better than the Rougarou logo.
You know what? I'm not done yet. I want to lay into the Fury logo some more here, actually, because I haven't had my fill. Here's something that just dawned on me. That throughout this whole show, we've been talking about how we like it, how the name fits the logo, fits the theme, fits everything. Here's the perfect example of how the hell does Fury fit a Hornet. And it doesn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense when they announced the ride. How many discussions did me and you have, Danny, about the name and what it was going to be? And we knew that they wanted the Hornet theme to tie to the city. We got that. But Fury is just a name. It's just a name. There's no tie whatsoever. Hornets aren't sometimes they're described as furious, and in some of this, it's a stretch. And when you look at things
Here's the thing. Gatekeeper is a good example of this. Gatekeeper, we all of us said Gatekeeper. That's kind of a silly.
It's not.
But no, I know, but Gatekeeper. When they announced Gatekeeper, we always said that Gatekeeper was it when we saw that trademark. Everyone was like Gatekeeper. That's kind of a silly name. But then when we saw the logo, we said it works. It works. I think that's kind of what you have here.
I agree.
But are we asking for something to work, or are we asking for something to be outstanding? And when we look at these other things, I think we're looking at outstanding versus working.
I agree that the name is bad. I love Fury. It's my number 2 roller coaster, but I think the name is just so generic, and I don't get the tie into the theme, but I think the logo makes it better. I think that there's a problem with the name. I agree.
Right.
I'm not a big fan of Fury, but I think the logo is better than the name.
I agree. I agree completely. I think when you have a name that when you just say this is going to be the name of a roller coaster, and then you say, oh, that's a terrible name. But then when you see the logo, you say, okay. I think a lot of people said that with Gatekeeper. I think another good example of that is the Smiler. It's be like, yeah, we're going to name this super badass roller coaster. We're going to call it the Smiler. And then you show that logo, say, okay, that works. Same thing with 13. We're going to call a coaster 13. Oh, you're going to name it a number? Like same thing with Fury 325. You're going to stick a number on the end, and then you see the logo, and you're like, oh, okay, maybe. You're losing this argument, Andy.
No, I think you're stretching way too much in this argument, because the Smiler, the whole theme of the ride, and the whole backstory is about surgically trying to make people smile. And with all the other ones you've described,
it's injuring people.
This is the worst. like Gatekeeper. I'm not saying Gatekeeper is good. Gatekeeper is bad. I don't even know what that thing on the front of the train is.
Here's what you have to. We're not talking about the name, though. We said this at the beginning of the show. We're not talking about the name. We're talking about the logo. And if the logo makes the name better, then that means it's a good logo. And I think that's what we have here. I don't think the Rougarou logo, Rougarou is a neat name, and it's a neat logo, but I don't think the logo of Rougarou improves the name at all. I think the logo of Fury makes it work better.
I think Fury's going down in the first round, and if it doesn't, it's because it's such a damn good ride, and that's the only reason people vote. Here's the thing. If this was a Boomerang, people would say this is a shit logo, and you know that's a fact. You know it.
Oh, nonsense.
If this was a Boomerang, nobody would even be thinking about this logo, but because it's one of the best steel coasters in America, people are like, oh, that's a good logo.
I don't know.
Free pass.
I don't know about
Free pass to Fury.
I don't know about that. Now, I will say this. I think Stinger is a better logo than Fury. I would pick the Stinger logo over Fury in terms of logos. But I think I don't think the Fury logo is the strongest logo in this tournament. I think it's better than the Rougarou logo, and that's all that matters in this first round. I think it loses in the second round, regardless of who it's playing.
Well, the person Fury would meet up against is in Game 16. And as you see here, we have the Legend at Holiday World, and we have a very overrated ride with maybe a just overrated logo as well. But this is the
Raptor? Did you change this one?
No,
Did you change this one and put the Raptor logo? Oh.
No, Danny. It's the Beast. It's the Beast.
An overrated ride, you mean Raptor. Oh.
The logo is 50 times better than the ride itself. You want track,
even when it's upside down.
Well, it's better when it's upside down, trust me. Eli, I'll tell you about that joke later.
Okay.
The Beast upside down.
Beast upside down. So here we have the Legend and the Beast. Now, two really good logos. Legend has that classic feel to it, very simple. But the Beast is just, Oh, I'm going to get hell for this. I already know. I think the Beast wins this, and I think the Beast is the better logo.
Oh, boy. Eli, go ahead. I need to think about this.
I prefer the Beast. I really like the claws, and I like the coaster track, and I really do prefer the Beast. It's hard for me to put into words why, because they're both very good, but I prefer the Beast.
I know, Eli, it's because just looking at the logo makes you want to fall asleep, probably. Just thinking about the ride puts your head into a slumber. You want to fall asleep, but at least you're looking at a cool logo, and the cool logo is keeping you up, probably. That's the only reason.
I have not ridden the Beast. I have not ridden the Beast, so I can't tell you that. But
count yourself among the lucky.
Oh, stop it!
I'll find out soon enough.
Wait, hold on, Danny.
Boy,
Eli, do you like, on roller coasters, do you like going straight? Just straight.
No, I do not.
If you do, you'll love the Beast. You'll love the Beast if you like going straight.
Well, from watching POVs, I've never understood why people like it, but I'm not going to judge it until I ride it. So,
hey, you know what? Here's the thing. If you ride the Beast,
bullshit.
Ride it.
Continue.
You're not going to think this is you're going to think there's some bullshit here. You're not going to think it's complete bullshit. If you ride the Beast, ride it in the very back row, and it'll make those straightaways seem like there's jerks and turns in all of them. Because, and I'll tell you what, that's part of the reason. That's part of the reason I like that. I usually don't sit in the back row of wood coasters almost ever. The Beast is one where I'll do it because it makes those straightaways a bit more interesting because you're being jostled around a bit more, and it's more exciting back there. And God. that helix is like, it beats the hell out of you at the end of the ride in the back seat. But I mean, it makes it more interesting when you're on those straightaways. So that's why I think a lot of people hate the back seat of the Beast, but I really enjoy it because it keeps those straightaways a bit more interesting.
Oh my God. What's your pick?
But we're talking about the logos here, so. Oh boy, the Beast is such a classic logo, and with the chains, the Legend logo is so perfect with like the orange moon, or I guess maybe it's the sun in the back, and it reminds you of like the pumpkin and the Halloween theme. I love the trees, and the trees have like the evil eyes off to the side, and you've got the coaster track. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. You know what? Flip a coin here. I'll go Legend. I'll go Legend because I like some of the smaller details of, the eyes on the trees in the background. This one could go either way for me. I haven't even clicked which one I'm going to vote for yet, so maybe I'll even change. The Beast is so classic, though. Oh, man. This is a real tough call.
This is a good one. Now, before we go, I don't want to go through your picks for winners here, but who do you think is the overall winner? I'm going to start with, so as you guys are thinking, I'm going to start with, I think the overall winner, I'm going to go with Prowler on this one. And
yeah.
I think Prowler has a good shot to win. Eli, what are your thoughts? Who's going to win it all?
I'm going to go with Diamondback. It's one of my favorites. I don't know. It's hard for me to choose between that, Banshee, and Prowler, but I'm going to go with Diamondback.
Danny?
Let's see. I'm going to predict my final four here. From Borg Assimilator, I'm going to go Hydra. From Iron Wolf region, I'm going to go Diamondback. From the Banshee region, I'm gonna go.
This might be the toughest region, I think.
It is. It's between Banshee and Prowler. I think I'm gonna go Banshee because of the big Kings Island contingency we have. I think that's the only reason that I think Prowler's probably the better logo, but I think Banshee makes it through. And then oh boy, do you go Leviathan here or do you go Beast?
You picked Volcano in the first round.
I know, but I think Volcano's the better logo, but I don't know that it'll win. I don't know that it'll win is the problem. Because you guys both picked Leviathan.
I did.
You guys both picked Leviathan, so I'm already down 2-1 here. So I think because of the Kings Island contingency, I think we see Beast versus Banshee, and I think we see Diamondback versus Hydra. I think we see Banshee versus Diamondback, and I think Diamondback's our winner. I think that's what's going to happen. Maybe not my favorite one here. I think Volcano might be my favorite one here just because of how well it works with everything. But if I'm going to predict who I think is going to win, I'll pick Diamondback over Banshee in the finals.
We've had a lot of fun here tonight, but the more fun in this is going to be you actually voting on the new COASTER-net forums. That if you want to get to them, we'll have a link down below, but it's coaster-net.proboards.com. It's our brand new forums. You must register in order to vote. You have to register. It only takes like 3 minutes to register. Pretty easy process. Not very hard at all. I think even if you have a ProBoards account already, I think you can still use the same one. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure if I did or not. But you go down, when you're into the ProBoards, you go down into community contests. You then click Tournament of Logos. And when you click Tournament of Logos, you have all 16 games individually. So you can look at all the logos right there. You can decide for yourself. You can vote at the top. You must be logged in order to vote, to hammer that one more time. And like I said, all future discussion of this will be on the COASTER-net forums, on the brand new COASTER-net forum. So we have a whole bunch more surprises for you, and definitely, visit the new forums. Danny, any final thoughts here?
No, I think we've had a lot of fun here. We want to thank Eli we finally got him on a show here. We finally got some time to coordinate our schedules and bring him on. And congratulations again on winning the contest. And, go register on those forums. We're going to be, we're basically, this is kind of the launch of these new forums here. And we've got some more news coming up, obviously, as well. But, eventually we're going to have all of our discussions moved over to that new forum site. So now's your chance to kind of start fresh here. And, this is going to be, where we're going to be having most of our discussions in the very near future, not just for this show, but for COASTER-net in general. So, this is kind of the first big step here. And Andy and I thought it was appropriate to kind of lump this in as we're going through that process. So, Eli, do you have any final thoughts on this evening before we leave the folks?
No, but just thanks for having me on, and I had a really good time talking logos, and it was fun. So, thanks for having me on, and you guys do great work. It's fun for me to watch them every week. So, thank you again.
As always, I am Ander Barchek from Chicago, Illinois.
I'm Danny Miller from Binghamton, New York.
And as always, right on, right Warriors.
Peace out, slackers.